So tonight's show is about the 21 nights in London. I believe everybody on the chat went to at least one or two, I'm guessing. I mean, we've got Lee here, as usual.
Hi, my name's Lee, and I went to 3 of the 21 nights.
We've also got Paddy.
Hi, Paddy, guitarist from Prince Tribute Endorphinmachine. I had tickets for 3, but only got to 2, tragically. More on that later.
We've got Leah.
Hi, I'm Leah, and I went to one of the shows. I went to the final one of the run.
Good show. And Andy.
I'm Andy, and I think I went to 3, but I feel like Chopin's already going to tell me I went to more. But I think I went to 3, and I went to a few of the after shows. And I'd like to introduce Chopin, if you don't already know him.
We need to do a drum roll for this.
I mean, Chopin is the only person on earth who went to more of the 21 nights run than Prince himself.
I'm not the only one. Mark Sullivan went as well. There was a few 21 nighters.
Okay, you did the whole lot.
Yeah, and all the after shows.
And all the after shows. You are basically Prince at this point.
And actually with a friend huddled around a door listening to a sound check as well.
Yeah, you're basically Prince. I mean, you lived Prince's life for like 2.5 weeks, didn't you?
He got to sit down, but he got to sit down for a while between the show and the after show. I think I did a lot more work than.
Yeah, right. He had it easy.
Oh wait, no, he's doing it in heels. Fair enough. Does everybody remember what they were and what the announcement was made of 21 nights and what they were expecting?
I can tell you my story, if that helps. So I was in India, and I was at the Youth Commonwealth Games in India, and I was born in 1977, so it would have been my 30th birthday that year, and 21 nights had been announced. And I was on my laptop in a hotel in India, panicking, trying to buy these VIP tickets to one of I think it was the opening night or the second night, I can't remember. But it was a VIP experience. And I was like, right, it's my 30th birthday. I'm going to go all out, and I'm going to do the whole VIP. And the VIP thing, I don't know if you know this, Chopin, where you would get on a boat, and it was one of the clipper boats, and they had a whole VIP experience. You get on the boat, you have food on the boat, the clipper boat goes all the way to the O2, and then you go in, and then you've got like front row seats. So I was in India trying to get online. I'm panicking. I'm like, do I really want to spend all this money? And I was like, of course I want to spend all this money. I'm treating myself, in brackets. And I got the tickets, and that was it. And I had one hell of an amazing time. I was all on my own. And this is the weird part is I didn't know anybody in the community then. And it was like no one could understand it, if that makes sense. And, I was like, right, I'm definitely going, and got on the boat and didn't really mingle, but it was all expensive food. It was like couscous and... All it was full VIP.
I should just say, couscous with gold in it, I hope. Couscous isn't that expensive,
Yeah,
it was. I can't remember how much I spent. I just know it was like, in my brain, the justification of, it's my 30th birthday, Prince is in London, it's 21 nights, I've got to do it.
And you got the program included, didn't you?
I got the program, and it was everything. And I was at the corner, I was right by the V of the symbol. I was right at the front of the V of the symbol.
Wow.
Where the steps were.
Mm-hmm.
And I just remember it just being one of the best nights of my life. And
I'm so glad to hear that was a good VIP experience, because I remember at the time there was, as ever with Prince, there was lots of controversy about, was this a good deal? Was that a better deal? Is he stinging us here? I'm just so genuinely chuffed that you had a great time on that.
Yeah, no, it was. I remember it was definitely worth the money that I spent, and it was my treat to myself. And Yeah, and it was the first time I tried couscous. And I know what's going to happen now. I know what's going to happen now. Every time everyone's going to see me now is like, oh, yeah, you're that guy that had the couscous.
Yeah, you're getting a lot of presents of bags of couscous for your birthday from here on out.
By the way, there's no sponsorship on this podcast, by the way.
There will be soon.
Yeah, exactly. And then the 2 other nights I went with one of my friends, and then the other time I went with 2 of my other friends, but we were up in the nosebleeds. They were like last minute tickets and stuff, and I did that. But I remember it all 3 nights that I went to was amazing. I wish I'd gone to more. I wish I had the money at the time to do more. So, but an incredible experience, and absolutely loved it. And he blew the roof off every time. So that was my story of me buying tickets in India and couscous. There we go.
Fantastic.
Paddy, do you remember your when you heard the announcement?
Do you know? I don't particularly. No. I remember being very excited and thinking, sort of, wow, how lucky are we? And thinking back to, sadly, not that I was there, but thinking about some of the longer runs that he'd done in the UK, like all the Wembleys for Love Sexy and things like that. But do you know, I can't remember specifically where it was. No, I think I was just like most people. What Andy said about the VIP stuff, similarly, I think Prince, because of Prince's focus, and I think the focus of the people around them, they focus on doing a thing, and I think sometimes the details, as they cascade into reality, get lost a bit, and sometimes people get stung or have slightly bad experiences, which I'm sure are not Machiavellian or intended in any way, but it does happen. So I think I was kind of in a little bit of that mindset, thinking, well, okay, it's all the way down to London, what can I afford? You know, how many sort of VIP things do I want to attempt, etc., etc. I was very excited, but again, it was one of those things. How much money have I got to spend on this? It was literally that simple, and I think at the time I was fairly limited, so I got 3 in the end.
Did you go to any after shows as well?
No, I didn't. So my tragic story around this is the ones I went to the opening night, which I was really, really pleased about with my then wife. I went with some friends to then the 1st of September. So I did the 2 firsts. The sort of big experience for me about those 2 nights was I hadn't heard I hadn't heard 1999 for that big gap, and he started doing it again on that tour. So when I saw that again, they played that, I think he opened with it on the September 1st show. That was just like, wow, that was amazing. And I can't remember the date I actually had the tickets for the one that I couldn't go to. Because I had like the little circle good tickets on in and around the symbol, like Lee said. And I had tickets for the after show, which was one of the ones he played at. But unfortunately, Louise, my wife at the time, she got really, really, really ill on a 24-hour thing. And I actually struggled to find, at such short notice, somebody who could just take the tickets and go. And I had a friend of mine I used to work with, and I pinged him on spec and said, look, I've got some tickets. It's like literally, X hours away. If you can get there, I've got 2 tickets. So he took them and went, and I was mega gutted, but I just couldn't. I just sort of couldn't go because my missus was seriously ill. It was some kind of bizarre 24-hour thing. So yeah, that's kind of the.
I hate. That was the best night. He came down and you could jam with him. Anyone was jamming with him.
Yeah.
He gave out a lot of free instruments that night. Some beats. It was great.
Andy, don't. That's so cruel.
He was passing out his hard Telecaster as well.
Oh, you!
It was just one of those nights. I'm sorry, man. That's how it crumbles.
That was brilliant.
Leah, what was your experience? Save me from this.
Well, mine's like, I feel even more maybe bizarre. I feel like every ticket story is kind of bizarre. But in 2007, I was 10 years old. I I had never seen Prince. I had been growing up kind of on his music because my dad was a huge fan. But my dad was very much into like the 80s. His CD collection consisted of CDs and records from the 80s. And he kind of, like a lot of fans, kind of got a little lost in the 90s. So didn't know too much more than that. And as a result, I didn't. At 10 years old, I knew the 80s and that was it. And I vaguely remember them going up on sale, but for me, because I was so young, it kind of all got mixed up with the hype of the album coming with the papers. And for me at that age, it kind of all merged into one exciting event. But I remember
life is one exciting event when you're 10, isn't it? So
exactly,
you don't know what's going on.
But I remember it being so exciting because I wasn't at 10 years old. I wasn't on social media or anything like that. And I didn't know there was too much of a wider community. And going off what my dad kind of believed at the time, I didn't think I'd ever get to see him, which sounds really bizarre because he's obviously always toured. But that was kind of the impression that I was kind of under. So when the tickets came out, I was absolutely thrilled. But living in Birmingham, getting to London, buying the tickets, we weren't particularly well off. We weren't sure if we were going to be able to make it work. Thankfully, we did. I managed to get tickets right in the nosebleeds. Lee, you mentioned nosebleed tickets.
Yeah.
Like 5 from the back.
Yeah, it was almost the same, yeah.
Yeah,
that was steep up there. That's the O2, that top of the O2, that was like, it's really steep up there.
But you were still slightly closer to the stage because you were only about half the size of everyone else, Leah.
That's true. But when you're 10, that kind of thing doesn't matter. If I got those tickets like later on, I would have been really annoyed. But when I was 10, I was just so happy to be there. It was incredible. It was my first concert ever.
Oh, wow.
First time in London. First time
to see somebody for your first concert ever.
Make it Prince. I mean, really.
Wow.
Make it Prince and be 10 years old. So was it with your dad you went then, Leah?
Yeah, my dad and his best friend travelled to and from London a lot, and he was a Prince fan as well. So we all drove down to London and then got the tube in. I had a little Prince outfit made. We made at home a little Kiss outfit. And I had pictures with everyone. They thought it was amazing. A random 10-year-old dressed as Prince. But it was incredible. And I knew the after shows were happening. And if I'm not mistaken, was it the Amy Winehouse night, the last show of the run? Yeah,
I think that was one of the ones I went to, yeah.
And I begged and I begged and I begged to go, but we couldn't because we had to get the last tube to get to the car so we could get home. And I remember walking past the Indigo and my dad had to practically drag me.
Oh, my goodness.
Like, please.
So, sorry, was Amy on the very last night then, was she? Is that the gig you were at, Leah, the very last night?
Yeah.
I love it.
Baby one.
So you went to one main gig, yeah? And that was that?
Yeah.
Yeah. I love that it's like the last night of the main tour and you're in basically the last seats. You were just right on the edge of that tour, but you did it. That's so fantastic.
But do you know what the funny thing is? I was even more so on the edge because legally to get in, you had to be 11 or older. So I was
really?
I was underage.
Wow, that's the right way to see Prince. Just on the wrong side of the track. That's fantastic.
Legally, I've only seen him once legally.
How many times have you seen him?
It was the last show at Coco's was the only time I saw him over 18 or of an age that was over the age of the venue.
Hilarious.
So nice.
The only time I saw him over that age.
Wow, you finally went straight, Leah. Well done, you.
Yes.
You see, a leopard can change its spots, guys.
Criminal Prince fan, yeah, I love it.
Oh, that's fantastic. I mean, this is probably a stupid question. Did you enjoy that first gig you ever saw?
Oh, literally sit down. And when you're in the nosebleeds at gigs, you get the more chill people that sit down, and even
of
when
course.
it's up. So I looked like such an oddball, like the only person stood up dressed as Prince, like shaking around. Like I was raised on the Syracuse Purple Rain gig, so I knew like all the dance moves. And like all these fans around me were gobsmacked when he would come in for like the intro for like Irresistible Bitch or something like that. And I was like, please carry on.
And were you...
for me.
And what did your dad think, who had like fallen out of the Prince loop for 15 years or more?
Well, he saw him on the Love Sexy tour.
Oh.
Yeah.
So it was a big difference.
Absolutely, that's what I mean. Yeah, I mean, did he enjoy it? Was he able to have different expectations and enjoy it?
Yeah, I mean, I think he knew, because he hadn't even really seen footage of Prince performing in later years, so it was a shock to them. But I think he was overly impressed. Actually, I think anyone that goes to a Prince show, I think at any point in time, what hits you first is the musicianship. Like it doesn't matter if he's doing flips or not. That is still what's going to blow your brain. So we still walked away so excited. And I think the fact that I walked away so unbelievably energized that he kind of bounced off that a lot as well. Seeing that, I think he saw that literally he'd just changed my life with a £31 ticket.
Fantastic.
Good way of putting it.
Incredible.
Go on, Chopin, do you want to give us... We've got another hour.
I'd say, Andy, what was your experience of the 21 nights?
Yeah, I mean, thank you, Chopin. We're going to do a whole 21 series of episodes for Chopin's experience.
Yeah, exactly.
I was trying to work out how we're going to fit it all in.
I'm going to... as I said, I'm only with you for another half hour or so, so I'm going to give you my quick rundown of my nights, because I think I had 3. And I think maybe I went to a few after shows. I skipped some of the main ones and went to a couple of extra after shows, but I had 3 very different experiences of the main show. I went once at the start, once in the middle, and once on the last night where I hung out with Chopin here. And that was such a nice ending. But I had 3 really interesting different experiences. The first night, I took my girlfriend at the time, who was, God bless her, difficult. She was one of those girlfriends. And she was pretty into Prince, but not, she wasn't crazy. She was pretty into Prince. She liked Prince. And I was like, we're going live. We're going to see him live, and you're not going to believe it. And that first night, we were quite high up. We were mid up. The O2 is not a great venue unless you're in certain places. Or exactly. if you're 10 years old, fine, that's fine. But we didn't have great seats. Also, the sound was muddy. Also, Prince was a difficult Prince that night. I was there with a difficult girlfriend and a difficult Prince. And like, what was interesting to me was that he didn't, he'd set up this 21 night thing where he was going to come and, wow London. But then in typically perverse fashion, and this might not be your recollection, everybody, but like, he played quite surly that first night. It was like all the, the casual fan would turn up, and then they're getting stuff like Another Lover Hole in Your Head, but with quite a muddy acoustic. And I can't remember a hell of a lot of the rest of the track list, but it wasn't a friendly track list to introduce the run. It was go show.
I might be going absolutely mad here, but didn't a track list get leaked and he ended up having to switch it at the last minute? Or that's in my head from somewhere. There was something odd about the set list on the first night. Chopin, were you going to?
Well, this wasn't the first night that Andy was here. This was the third. It was the 3rd of August, and there was see that video that I put online of Joy and Repetition at Circling. It started Joy and Repetition, and it's a really slow start. And that was the night that we were, because I was sat next to Andy and your girlfriend and somebody.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry, you got it. I thought it was the first night I was there. That's what I was mistaking.
No, it was the 3rd night. He'd done the first one, and it was like, wow, the crowd kind of thing. This was his second one, and he started off slow and like creeped into the hits.
Okay.
He started off, it was like a long version of Joy and Repetition, Another Love Hole in Your Head, Pete.
Was that the one with the twins and the smoke, and that was the video that they put on the website?
That's exactly it, and that's and that was the opening, pretty much the opening of the show. So it was a slow burn in, but after that, you've done the whole controversy. I feel for you, controversy section.
I remember our whole contingent. I'm so sorry, Shopes. I forgot we were there together. Honestly, I was like trying to control this girl. And
every night we were there, we ended up together.
That's beautiful and romantic. I remember. Well, my feeling from that is that it was a difficult set list. He wasn't in a giving mood. And then, just to give you my whole sort of quick narrative through all this, right? That was a tough gig, and I felt like he was very conflicted that night. Then, in the middle of the run, somebody gave me a couple of press tickets that they weren't using. So we had really nice seats in the press enclosure, or in that bank of seats. And I took a friend who was really just a very fair weather Prince fan, knew a few of the hits. And I was worried. I was like, is he going to feel a bit done by this as well? And my God, it was chalk and cheese. Prince came out, he started with 1999. And that night, the sound was great. Where we were was great. And Prince just came out and did, I am just going to be the least difficult Prince I can be. I'm going to give you, whoever you are, something glorious and colourful and easy. And it was wonderful. And I was so happy that my friend Duncan next to me that night was just like, I want to see somebody who's never been to a Prince concert being blown away. Yeah. And that's what he did that night. So I had a difficult one. I had just an absolutely resplendent one. It felt like, how Take Me With You feels. It felt like that from start to finish. It was just like, this is glorious. And then my last night of the main gigs was just really lovely, because it was just a very relaxed, very relaxed. I know what it's all about now. I'm going to hang out with Chopin here. We had really nice mid-level seats. And then my abiding memory of that last night is just what a great way to close the show. But then for the encore, we just looked at each other and we're like, come on, sod it, let's bum rush the stage. Or bum rush the floor anyway. And we ran right down into, dodging security guards as we went. And we just partied it up with all the VIP guys for that lot. Sorry, Lee and your couscous contingent. And and it was such a nice way to end the tour, was just like having a boogie, not too far away from the guy.
Why's all this Prince fans breaking the law? This is getting ridiculous.
It was the 24th of August, by the way.
That last one?
The second one.
The second one. Oh, was it? So, did we hang out in the second one as well, Shopes?
Well, because we didn't start sitting together, but we'd kind of seen each other outside, and you said there's a whole, because of the placement of the camera, there's a whole empty row behind me, and you were worried that your friend wasn't going to be into it. You said, so I want me, and it was me and Sam. So we were like, okay, well, we know our way around the arena. I can get around there, because it was on the same level. And I was just kind of darted in and out of security things. And then because it was the night that he did Start Me Up by the Rolling Stones.
I don't remember that. I remember him doing he even did quite a lot of Raspberry Beret that night. And it was like he made that night, he just made it for the common people. The fans. It was lovely to see. I appreciate an obscure set list as much as the next guy, believe me, but also to just see that in a funny way, that middle night was like exactly what I wanted from that tour. It was he was just, it was extraordinarily lucid and light and generous that night.
Mm-hmm. I think this is the thing with Prince, is the set list doesn't actually tell you how the gig was. Lots of times, you see on forums and stuff, people read lists and they go, oh, it's just a standard show. And it was just like, well, if you read something like Hop Farm, that sounded like just a standard show. But it was not. It was
one of the biggest regrets of my Prince life is that I decided not to go to Hop Farm. I don't want to hear anything back from it. Same. I know how good it was.
Hear anything. Will not hear anything.
I know.
I just realised, Leah, Andy Allo.
Lee, enough is enough. Right?
I know what I'm missing. I've gone back and watched some of the footage on YouTube, and oh boy, that was a bad decision on my part.
Yeah, it was. But you had the 21st of 21st of September, and that was Leah's first show. So I think there was 3 of us there at that last night with the that was the one that was broadcast on Sky. Some of it was broadcast on Sky, and that was a special night. That was a really special night, and it's Leah, it's probably for the best that you didn't go to the after show as a 10-year-old, because it didn't finish until we walked out there and the sun was up.
That's fine, because we drove home and I was like too hyped in the car to like contemplate.
This was like
Birmingham. I was still dancing in my Kiss outfit at like 5 a.m.
Oh, well, in which case, sorry.
Yeah.
Good one.
Someone driving past your car going, is there a little girl dressed as Prince dancing in the back of that car?
Yeah. I mean,
somewhere that we won't make.
Yeah.
I Chopin, you've reminded me of, this has reminded me of so many things, and one is like how much a gig can change just who you're with and where you're, and like I mean, my memory is terrible. Don't take it as an affront that I can't remember when we were there together, and that's just my memory. I'm old and funky, but but you know, we've had so many great gigs over the years, and like, you know, I don't seem to remember any of them, but I value them. But
I'm actually quite flattered on the night that you didn't have that good a time. You didn't remember I was there, but on the night you remembered I was there. I take that more as a flattering thing. I was like, you didn't remember I was there when there was a bad time? Good.
Oh no, I blame it all on the girl who should go unnamed. But but really, what I'd like to ask you, because you know you went to all of them, so just thinking, this sounds like market research, just thinking about your experience with the main shows, because like the after shows are a whole other subject. But on the just thinking about your experience, would you, having gone like every night in sequence, could you draw a kind of emotional arc over the 21 nights of how he was towards the audiences, say?
No, I don't think Prince is ever that predictable. There was just like, there'd be nights where it was quite clear he was not phoning it in, because I don't think Prince ever really phoned it in. I mean, but he wasn't like, there was no foot on the gas. And what I will say you could kind of predict was you'd be sat there and you'd be about halfway through the show and you're like, he's going to play at the after show tonight.
Yeah.
Like, if the last 3 songs, you could kind of gauge, you started to kind of gauge that, this is an after show night. The energy in the room is like, he's not putting that guitar down. I remember distinctly one of them was the 28th of August, and it was one of the rare times that I actually kind of teared up during Purple Rain. Like, he was tearing it up on the guitar. And, you know, Purple Rain over the course of 21 nights, it becomes it's always a kind of great experience, even as a base level thing, but it stops being what you're there for.
You can go for a wee at that point, can't you? If you've done it 18 times already.
Kind of thing. I mean, I was sat in that seat from beginning to end all 21 times, but like, I know what you mean. It's like, it's not like, you know, like if somebody's going there one time, that's the song they're there to hear. But after 21 nights, I'm here to see what he sneaks into the piano set or the sampler set, or, you know, the little sort of flourishes or whatever. But the 28th of August, I remember he was like, Purple Rain hit me. And the guitar hit me, and I was just thinking, like, and I was bored. I actually had to sit down. And somebody was like, "Oh, you know, like, are you okay?" And I was like, "I am. I'm just in a good place." And it was that I was like, he's not, you know, he's in love with this guitar tonight, and I kind of thought nothing more of it. Like, but was under the distinct thing, tonight's an after show night. It was a midweek. And we got there, and it was the show where it was just guitars, drum, and bass. And I can tell you, the next morning after that show, people, all the friends that we had at the show, were calling each other, going, "No, like it's going to be like, you know, it's like our personal Nam. You know, like you weren't there, man. You don't understand how good."
I don't think the Vietnam vets were going, "You don't understand how good it was," show. But you
know what I mean? You don't understand how important it was.
Yeah, you have to be there to understand. Yeah, I got you.
I'm not how good. Yeah. It was
that couscous was amazing. You had to be there.
I will say
it was really good, though.
It was even better if you were illegal, though.
Yeah.
Although that show was louder than Vietnam. That was
Wow.
ears were ringing the next morning. It was crazy. It was crazy.
So that was the power trio. That was
the power trio one, and I cannot tell you that people walked out of there looking at each other with like kind of side eye, like I was standing next to you when this happened, right? And it's like, yeah, we were standing next to each other when it happened, and it was something else. It was really just something else. So that's the only thing I could really say. He had amazing nights. He had good nights. There was no bad nights. There was kind of lower energy nights.
Yeah.
Or
you couldn't trace up. You couldn't trace like a smooth line. It's just he came out in a certain mood every night.
Yeah, there was nothing. I still to this day, whenever people talk about like the predicting, you know, what Prince would have wanted and what have you, I always do the whole thing of like, you know, the energy at the start of the show was different than the end of the show. This was not a guy you could predict like that.
True.
You know, might have a document stating that was his will. It wouldn't have been his will in the afternoon. Do you know what I mean?
Was it Play That Funky Music White Boy he put on this tour, if I remember?
Yeah.
And see, I always felt like with Prince on this tour, he wanted to be this showman and this generous giver of light and bright, but also I felt I at points in just from the stuff I saw, the 3 nights with their different energies, and I felt different attitudes. I felt that like that night with Another Lover, he definitely played that funky music, and to me, just at the time, I felt like he was kind of pissed at how white his audience had become, and it was almost a dig. But it was, you know, which is maybe reading a lot into it, but I felt like he was not in a happy mood with his audience that night, or with himself or something.
I actually think, I think it was more to do with actually the sound and the sound system, because they actually changed the entire PA after the first weekend.
Yeah,
so that would make sense. He definitely wasn't happy with something, but it felt like, but because he wasn't happy, to me it was an edgy show.
No, so with you could definitely sense the push and pull and of, do I cater to this you know, the Purple Rain and 99 people who are coming once and want to hear those songs, and he was definitely aware that there were people coming night after night. Because I remember there was a moment in the piano solo section on one of the nights where he just started to play 1,000 Hugs and Kisses on the piano, and it was kind of like almost like, you know, that bit in X-Men where, you know, he uses the big dome and he can locate every other mutant.
Cerebro.
It was like that, where like there was like
Thank you, Paddy.
You could hear like 6 other people go, and it was just like, it's like you, and you. You know, like you could tell who had the bootleg. Do you know what I mean? It was like, and he kind of like smiled to himself, like, I know who's here.
Right, I'm taking names here.
In terms of mechanics, if you're going to do like 21 nights in a row, so you're looking at, say, 21 2-hour shows, as you've all quite rightly pointed out, you have hardcore fans, you have people who have heard Purple Rain, Kiss in 1999 type of thing. Yeah. It's quite a difficult thing to do, which kind of brings me on. The thing that sort of, one of the things that stood out to me about this show was this fantastic, and in some ways, I won't say awful, but annoying, and I'll come on to that, is the idea of the sampler set. Mm-hmm. This really blew my mind. The first, I He didn't do it on the first gig. I can't remember which. I think it was about 4 or 5 in. He started using the sampler set, and I kind of had mixed feelings about this because I was looking at forums as people were tapping out on their phones, literally each song as it came to say what the set list was. And you were watching these forums and you're watching, oh my God, what's he going to play tonight? What's he going to play tonight? Because of the nature of the long run, you knew he had to mix it up. You knew he had the catalogue. You know he has the musicians who are prepped to play 10 million songs at the click of a finger, and they know which click means which song, and so on and so forth. So he starts flying the sampler in. So I'm looking at this, and I see, before I knew it was a sampler, I see things like, I'm saying this, it's the first time I saw a list. There may be one before, but I saw Erotic City, and I'm like, holy shit. And then I saw Darling Nikki. Holy shit. And then I was like, nasty, what? So again, eventually, where I heard it live and sort of heard a few of them by other means, and so on and so forth, which led me to have quite a conflicted view of this. Mm-hmm. Because if I'm not a religious man. I respect anybody's right to have a faith, something which fills them, makes them feel good, blah, 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 blah. Prince is no different. He's obviously had this spiritual journey. He was always spiritual, should I say? Spiritual is a brand new word, TM, Paddy.
Always. It sounds like a good brand of toothpaste or something. I'd use that.
Yeah, it's very good. And so he was always spiritual. He became more defined later on for a variety of reasons that I'm sure we'll perhaps cover a little bit in other podcasts and so on and so forth. But one of the main things about the direction that side of his character went in was the fact that he wouldn't play certain songs. So I was listening to these thinking, I don't really want to hear the first few bars of Erotic City and not hear the song. And I don't really want to hear the first few bars of Darling Nikki and not hear the song. Because whilst I appreciate as an artist, he's at liberty to pick and choose what he wants to play and have no issue. But it's like, if you have a genuine issue playing that and you don't feel it represents you anymore, or you have a steadfast reason why you will not do that, it sort of felt like a tease in one way is a magnificent little thing for an artist to do with an audience. But that made me slightly, oh man, if you're not going to play it, don't do a few bars, because all of a sudden I'm hearing in this brilliant arena sound, boomy, and there's this like back, to all intents and purposes, a backing track sample, and it's like, oh my goodness. But sort of no climax, for want of a better way of putting it.
Well, I think it takes you on, it stops you, whereas before you kind of respected the decision and you kind of understood it and you're like, okay, well, those songs, I know I'm not going to get those songs. But then to tease you, you go from like kind of respecting the decision to going, oh, I really lament the decision because right now I wish he wasn't that guy. Whereas you don't, like if he's just singing Anastasia or, you know, Do Me Baby or whatever, like that doesn't have lyrics that he you're just like, okay, so I can go without those songs because he's in a good place, but now you're confronted with just what you're losing in that tease, and you're kind of like, now I don't agree with this decision.
It's the loss. I mean, again, as an 80s guy like Andy, these are tracks that are like, oh my goodness, and then it's gone. Again, I know it's all opinion, but there are certain tracks that might have been in the set list, and the fact of the matter is, I would much rather have listened to Erotic City, Head, etc., etc., etc. So, it's difficult. It's difficult as a fan without wanting to be a bleating patheticism and appreciating that watching Prince, when all said and done, is still watching Prince. But yeah, I thought that was sort of ill-judged. But Leah, then again, I suppose it'd only be the hardcore fan that would be particularly bothered. But Leah, a strange one.
Leah, did you want to come in on that?
Yeah, I was just going to point out that imagine being a 10-year-old raised on that 80s period. But I think that I agree with everything you've said, but for me, I think it's typical Prince with the chalk and cheese. He kind of loves to annoy you as much as he loves to like make you happy. I'm pretty sure that even as a 10-year-old, I swore a good few times at him that night. When you put off Darling Nikki, I think he came in that night with Irresistible Bitch, just the speaking intro. I've checked this, but I have a vivid memory that he did. I'm sure he did. And I almost had a meltdown. But he cut it off, and I was like really like upset, of course, but at the same time it almost gave me the footage you see from back in the day when he was swearing, back in the day when he was teasing the audience with sexual innuendo a lot more and things like that. Although he couldn't do that now because of his religious standing, it almost felt like he was going back to that a little bit, just to annoy you a bit, to tease you. It felt like a little flashback to that. He's doing it, but in a different way.
There's a few interesting things going on here, because I didn't the angle of like whether he will play that song versus that song, that wasn't my main focus of the sample set. It was like more like it's just not very satisfying. Like regardless of what the songs are, it's not that satisfying. It's novel to see Prince sitting there blasting out things that, you know, presets that he's got sampled into his keyboard, but that quickly wears off. I think like why should it be that different from when he would play a piano medley rather, when he played piano medley, but when you're watching someone play a piano medley and actually produce that music as they do it and go from, say, Condition of the Heart into, you know, Adore, into Wanna Be Your Lover, or whatever he used to do on piano, that's a very different proposition from seeing Prince sitting there plonking down on a couple of keys. On the other hand, it's really novel to see Prince just playing karaoke with himself. So and like also just the actual quality of the beats, like for the one that always killed me was Sign as the Times when he did the sample set, because like it is like all you want is to go down there and just bash around on that key with him a bit. So
arguably I think Sign and Doves were the two that worked, because that's basically what they were anyway.
That's right. And like in a way it's quite audacious to just see Prince treating his own like creations like you know, just reducing them and showing you that even at a sort of DNA level, they're just amazing. And like Sign, I think out of all of them, Sign is the one I've got goosebumps just thinking about it. But as a kind of spectacle in a set, I think really the only reason it's there is that Prince didn't know how to satisfy everybody with. He was under the weight of his back catalogue because it's so huge, and he goes, I'll put 12 songs in for the price of 2 here, but you're like, maybe just do 2 songs that actually kill, and then do a different 2 the next night.
He'd always use the classic line of, "I've got so many hits, what do you want to hear?" Right. I'm pretty sure he said that one of the nights I saw him. It was like, "I've got all these hits, I've got so many hits," and I've heard that line a couple of times.
I've got more hits than Madonna's got kids.
That was the first night, yeah.
That was
there you go. And like, what do you want to hear? Well, like, you know, sometimes the answer is we'd just like to hear 2 songs fully, and then the next night they can have a different 2 songs. But so, you know, very, very, I think mixed emotions about that for many different reasons, as you say, Paddy.
And one thing about the sampler set, it did endure. It became a staple rather than something he did once, which was interesting, and perhaps more testament to an artist who was getting older and was consistently under that cosh of, you know, some of the people, all of the people. Yeah.
I know someone in the Prince community that got very, very excited when Nasty Girl played on the sample set. I have no idea who that is.
It's Lee.
It's a secret.
Yeah. Did you a little bit of couscous was going to come up?
Yeah. Couscous flying everywhere to Nasty Girl.
Now there's an image to conjure with.
I hope not a euphemism.
Oh dear.
You're a nasty boy, Lee. You're a nasty boy.
He was flinging his couscous.
It was
so nasty.
But
Okay, now.
That's going in. This whole thing's going to be. I think a whole podcast devoted to couscous is fine by me.
It's when you realise when you've got to submit the podcast, you're going to have to click on E for explicit.
Well, it's a Prince podcast.
Yeah, I know.
Well,
dear.
I think one time it did actually really fantastically work for him in a non-kind of, where it didn't seem like it was pandering, was the Electric Ballroom, where he just turned the lights down and it became a club.
Uh-huh.
And it was Prince was the DJ. But yeah, and like he played live before, and after, but it was the second show of that night and it was just spectacular. It was just, the whole night was something epic, and it turned into like this, you were in a dirty club in Camden. I think in the main shows it was kind of a teaser thing, and I think we're slightly coloured by being Prince obsessives, because actually the reception from all of the people that I took the first timers was just like, oh my God, he did it, like, and they were kind of satisfied. So that's, in a stadium, you got to remember, we are 5 people out of 70,000, out of 25,000. So although there would have been quite a few thousand out of that 25,000 who have the 6th time they've seen it, the 8th time. But you're right. I mean, it wasn't like it was some dreadful failure. It was just it wouldn't end up necessarily being anyone's favourite part of the concert if they'd seen it multiple times, and that's. But I'm going to push off in one moment. But before I go, there is one song that I would like to give special attention to from this tour. Do you know what it is, Shopes? You look like you know what I'm going to say. No, actually, I'm not.
I mean, it was always great live, but I remember particularly on this tour, every time I saw it, it was controversy. It took the show to another level, and it was just because. Sorry.
Say again, Leah.
About that, I missed that my night. My dad made me miss the first song, and we walked in just as controversy was ending.
Oh no, I'm sorry. It was terrible. What can I say? That I remember on the last night, it was dreadful. That was the only night, Leah, that it really sucked. It was bad. For a start, he did it in French. I've got nothing against it. He did it at a quarter speed. There was yodeling in it. It was terrible.
Wait, did he do it on the sampler? Because that would make it okay.
Yeah. He did it on the no, it was bloody brilliant, mate. Sorry.
Amy Winehouse came on and sung it.
No. Out of all of his songs, that song in particular is always the song live that really sounded like it could have been released the week before. It was always hard. And like, I remember even on that difficult night, that first time I went, that cut through everything. It suddenly brought you bang up to date. It was like, it reminded everyone just how jamming. It never failed to smoke. Except maybe that last night when you missed it, Leah.
Yeah, that was the only time it ever sucked.
What a bummer it was.
Controversy as a song is a bigger Prince definer than Purple Rain will ever be.
In some ways.
Controversy is Prince.
It's a hard one.
It is a hard one. We it's if you know anything about Prince, that one is always a marker on record and live. It is, what did you say, a defining song? Definitely.
I think because lyrically it's more defining of Prince than anything else.
Yeah, it sets it out really pretty much on the nose, but it gets away with it, right?
If you were going to play one song, and you said this is what this guy does, Purple Rain or Controversy, I think Purple Rain was more of an anomaly of Controversy is like, well, it's got the Minneapolis sound. He's talking about androgyny. He's talking about sex, but he's talking about it in a spiritual way.
Oh, hey, I'm thinking about that guitar, the rhythm guitar on the 16. That is Prince.
As soon as that comes in the O2 or in a small club or anywhere in between, like whatever the concert's been before, it just goes up. It's an amazing live track, and like that was where he's like that song, he would always sound so immediately relevant again in whatever time frame it was played.
Yeah.
It just like, because it was way ahead of its time. It was proto techno or proto house, you know, quite a few years before that was a thing.
Like you said, though, if it was released a week before, you wouldn't know.
You wouldn't bat an eyelid.
No, exactly.
Like a really amazing song, guys. It's been lovely. I wish I could stay and listen and talk, but I'll come and listen to this when it's out, and I'll hear the rest of your memories. It's been really lovely.
Pleasure as always, Andy. Thank you.
I just have to say one thing that I remember about the last night is that I forgot that I got 2 tickets to the after show, and I was like, Andy, I've got a ticket for the last after show, and you were like, I can't, I've got a meeting with my publisher about this new book in the morning. Like, and I think you made the right decision because, you know, that worked out quite well for you. But I remember, and I just remember, like, we just had that show, and I was like, come on, come to the after show. He said, no, I've got to work with a publisher. So, I hope it all works out, and I hope it all goes good. Good luck in the morning. And then I went and danced myself stupid.
What a note to leave me on. Yeah. and on that bombshell.
That's the
Great, thanks, Chopin. I mean, I love you, boy, but you've just ruined my night.
That's the problem of being friends with an elephant. Sober elephant, I always remember.
Oh, dear God. Well, I was going to say it's been lovely. No, it has. It's been lovely. I will come and listen to the rest of what you get up to. I hope there's no other revelations about how my life could have been better. But
I think that worked out quite well myself.
Yeah, no, true. I'm not unhappy with the way everything went. We had a good time. I'll leave you to it, guys. Lots of love.
All right. Thank you, Andy.
Bye, Andy. Take care, bud.
Bye.
I mean, it's a long story as to why what I decided to go 21 nights, but one of the reasons is, like, as a musician, it was school to me. I was on a, you know, like, I was like, okay, so this is how you put something together. This is how you put something. The way that you realize that actually, even though all the songs were moving about, they were moving about in sequence, like as in he had little pockets of structure that he could move into place. So if you were getting I Feel For You, you knew you were getting controversy. Like controversy afterwards. You know, you knew kind of that Nothing Compares to You was coming up after that. But after that little section, you didn't know what was coming up. So you'd be kind of left in these kind of like weird pockets of, once you started on that song, you knew you were for, you know, Cream. If you got Cream, you were into You Got the Look. So it was kind of, it became familiar over the time of how he structured things, and it became genius. To me, that was the genius of it. It's like, oh, so you're rehearsing whole sections rather than one song, then rehearsing another song. You're rehearsing it as big sections that you can move around to keep it fresh for yourself, so you don't get kind of bored of the arc of the show.
And also how they can intertwine each flow, can't they? Mm-hmm. See what I did there? Flow. Hey.
The flow. I say, when people from the 80s are complaining about having their stuff censored, like, you know, you still got some pretty big hits in the 80s that you still get to hear. We didn't.
Us 90s fans don't get it.
Get off, Sexy Motherfucker, Pum Pum. You know, like there was so many that we were just like, wait a minute, that's all disappeared. Billy Jack Bitches, just like it was gone. Like now, gone.
Yeah, I think we got Shush, didn't we?
Yeah, we got Shush.
What else did we get?
Nothing from Rave.
Did he play Gold on that tour at all?
No, he didn't play that until like Malahide.
All right.
That was just like lost. That was another song, like a big song that was just lost.
Did we get 7? I remember him teasing Diamonds and Pearls, but not playing it. He was on piano.
Cream, Diamonds and Pearls. One night we even got the Morning Papers.
Love that song.
I'll be honest, I think it's a self-fulfilling prophecy, though. You can't, one way or another, you can't do 21 nights at that kind of capacity venue and not lean on the 80s. I mean, I don't. To be frank, at times when I was seeing him, even though I'm sort of an 80s guy, I was up for something rarer, some stuff from the 90s as well. But it's like I say, it comes back to that eternal battle of that which you have to play and that which you can choose to play.
Well, it wasn't even just the 90s, just like the early 2000s as well. You know, there's no High, there's no When I Lay My Hands on You. You know.
One thing I would say, and this is very much just opinion related, I don't know how you feel about this, but I did feel that, so 31 and 21 and Planet Earth, for me, were a bit of a resurgence. Something I said on the last podcast that I really feel about those two albums is there were albums where each song was, different style of song. There was a Sign of the Times-ish about them again. And it wasn't sonically thematic necessarily. You had, a rock song. You had a song that ran off a very dry sample. You had a James Brown song, and so on and so on and so on. And I think that really lent itself to having a bit of power in terms of your last 3 years of being out there in the public, the immediacy, the releases. And I think that was good. Stuff like Lolita were banging. Cold Sweat, bang. Stuff like that. I know Planet Earth. I think I'm one of those people who probably like Planet Earth a little bit more than the majority. I think that's a really good album.
I adore the album.
Yeah. Chelsea Rogers, for heaven's sake.
Rogers.
Prince post-millennium disco. Jesus. So
I love Here on Earth as well. I think that's such a beautiful love song. It's one that I always go back to.
Which very much so.
Somewhere Here on Earth.
Sorry.
Oh yeah, that was a great song.
Yeah, and that was part of the play. That was on the set list as well, wasn't it? Somewhere Here on Earth. I'm just double checking everything.
I really love Future Baby Mama.
Yeah. So in the context of the tour, I think he had some new bullets that were actually good songs, different flavors for different parts of the set list dynamic, different moods. He opened a couple with 3121 towards the beginning as well.
Guitar as well, wasn't it? Guitar,
which is a weird. Yeah, I have mixed feelings about guitar. Weird, but it was a good live song. So yeah, he had some good recent bullets there for that tour, which I think helped a lot. You know,
there was definitely one of the shows came around the same time as Sparks had done a series of shows where they played entire albums, and everybody was like, why doesn't Prince do something like that? Why doesn't Prince do something like that? And I remember one night, it was my 30th birthday, 6th September. It was because I'm born the same year as Lee.
Yeah.
77, and it was 6th September. It was the after show, and he'd done like a kind of like a more jazzy kind of first half, went off stage, came back with there's a yellow suit jacket with the hoodie and glasses, and there's a picture of it from 21. There's a famous like picture of it from the Indigo Nights book, and he came on wearing that outfit, started playing Planet Earth in the after show, then went from Planet Earth to Guitar, then from Guitar to Somewhere Here on Earth, then Somewhere Here on Earth to One You Want to See. And by the time we got to One You Want to See, everybody's like, is he doing the whole album? Because it was in sequence, and we were all like, is he doing the whole album? And at this point, he hadn't played Chelsea Rogers live, and we were like, I gotta get Chelsea Rogers tonight. I gotta get Chelsea Rogers. Turns out he didn't play the whole album, but then like as an encore, and we were like, but as encore, like Shelby comes out and said, you guys are gonna go crazy, and then it starts boom 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 boom, and everybody did. They went crazy because it was like, it's the first time he's ever played this song live, and that was another one of the bonuses of going every night. There were a couple of songs that he played for the first time live in that show.
In the show or the after shows?
In the shows, after shows, in the whole thing, there was some songs he'd never played live before. There were some songs he'd never played live for years, like "Beautiful, Strange" and "Around the World in a Day." 99 he hadn't played that for years. It was the first time he played Planet Earth live. There was just loads because he hadn't really been on a hits tip. So
because you went to every night, does that mean you got 21 copies of the album?
Yes. I've got 20.
No, because I'm just thinking of, I don't know if you remember this, Chopin, Raji's frame. I think because I'm sure Raji did 21 nights as well, and he had a frame in his living room with all the tickets. I was just wondering if you had something similar with like 21 copies of the album.
That's always been my intention, and I kept them, and as well as there was tour adverts in like the Metro, like fold out, and I kept a couple of those things and stuff. And I always intended to do a big frame thing, and then I just realized, if I lived alone, I could do something like that. But like,
it didn't not really changing the subject, but kind of spinning off. Didn't London Meetup come from 21 Nights?
No. So here's the story of. Here's a little kind of extended story, of how I got involved in the London meetups was because of One Night Alone, and also the reason I went to 21 Nights is because of One Night Alone. So I hadn't seen Prince at all. I'd been a fan since 1992. Hadn't seen him, missed all the tours. I was a poor kid, couldn't afford. But this was the first time I was working, had a job, didn't live at home, so I was a member of the MPG Music Club, so I decided to go 2 of the 3 nights of One Night Alone in London. And I went to the first one and the last one, and I missed out October 4th. And he played Anastasia and Xenophobia at those shows, but none of the other 2. And I was like, I can't even miss a night with this guy.
Yeah.
I can't even miss a night because, like, he's playing some of my favorites. I mean, he played some of my favorite songs. Don't get me wrong. On the shows he played "Empty Room." I was aghast at some of the stuff that he played. He played "Dolphin," "Sign of the Times," and I cannot complain. But I missed one night, and I missed Anastasia, and I missed Xenophobia. So I was like, the next time he comes to town, I'm going to every show. And it turns out everybody on our row, it was a lively, dancey row. And Lynn, who was one of the founders of the meetup, was on that row, and we kind of connected. And then because I was from London, and I lived in Hackney, the Marquee After Show was happening very close to my house. So I was just like, come on over. I know the way. So we were like dancing.
Pied Piper of Prince music.
Exactly. We were on the tube, like, oh, way, oh, like literally from Hammersmith to Angel Islington. It was the whole way. It was like we was doing "It Ain't Over." It ain't over. Like switching between that and like one side of the train going, oh, and the other side going, it ain't over. So it was like a magical journey. And it was that night she said, well, you got to come. Like a couple of days later, she contacted me on Housequake, and she said, are you Chopin from the tube journey to the Marquee? The ginger guy? And I was like, I definitely am. And she said, you need to come to the Prince meetups, just meet up with a couple of people. And it was about 3 or 4 people then, and then it was just like, and that was 2003. End of 2002 I went to my first one, and
we're still going.
Yeah, all these years later. And so when 21 Nights, so I was like, Prince took like a 5-year hiatus from playing in London, and then he said, Prince, there was a strong rumor Prince is coming to London after this. And I was just like, yeah, we're going to every show. I'm going to every show. 21 Nights, fuck.
So it went from I'm going to every show, I'm going to every show, I'm going to every show, I'm taking out another mortgage, I'm taking out another mortgage.
It turns out there was a couple of things. First of all, tickets were cheap, great. Overtime at my work was plentiful, great. And the roster clerk owed me a ton of favors, great. It all lined up. I was in a business suite of a Holiday Inn in Connecticut because when the tickets went on sale. So I was literally getting up first thing in the morning, running downstairs to the business center and booking my tickets because I was on holiday. The same thing as you, Lee.
Yeah.
So literally it was the same experience of, I was like, right.
Gotta get them.
Yeah, gotta get them. So I said, what I'll do is I won't get all of the tickets tonight, but I'll get my framework tickets. So I get and then they announced it was 21 nights plus after shows, and I was like, fuck. You know, like shit. Like I'm not even doing early shift the next work. I'm literally that month work isn't seeing me. I'm a ghost. Anyway. So I think, right, I'll get 2 tickets for the first show and first show, 2 tickets for the first after show, 2 tickets for the last show, 2 tickets for the last after show, and somewhere
meet in the middle.
And what I'll do is I'll build my ticket collecting from there, and I ended up getting about like 10 individual nights where I was just going on my own, and I built it from there. And I was just thinking, what are the shows he's most likely to play? Buy all the Saturday after shows, first night, last night after show, because I knew the after show was kind of like some nights he won't play. So I got all of those, and by the time the tickets were being printed and mailed to you, I'd bought all of them. So like this one glorious day, this deluge of Prince tickets just popped through the door, and it was just like
just picturing you just like throwing it on the bed and then just like lying on the bed with Prince tickets.
Like rose petals.
Yeah, like rose.
Oh.
You've seen American Beauty.
Oh dear.
All those nights. The other thing about it is as well, I think it was kind of obviously there was more, plenty more after 21 nights before he left us and all that kind of thing. But it did feel like a real nice ending for his sort of, I don't know, his relationship with the UK and how he sort of gigged quite a lot here specifically. I remember going back when I first became aware of Prince, it was the BPI Awards in 84, 85. And I remember, him coming to get his award, saying 3 words, thanking God, Chick Huntsbury looked terrifying, Noel Edmonds looked disgusted, and the British press absolutely smashed the shit out of him after that. Then you move along a couple of years and he comes in with the Revolution and demolishes Wembley for 3 nights for Parade. And I think a love affair just started at that point. And the thing is with Prince, I think it's fair to say is big European loves from sort of interviews and knowing how often he played where and what have you. He was obviously big into the Netherlands, big fan of Paris. Yeah, big fan of Paris. And of course, London. And I think the fact that we got the 21 nights run is really special, and I'm kind of glad he did it. I'm not so happy I live in West Yorkshire with regard to that, but I'm so glad. I'm so glad that he.
No,
he did it in London.
I've always thought he appreciated the European fans and Netherlands and Paris and London. And London, I don't know if you remember, we became like the backup when the show in Germany, I believe, I think it's hitting.
Cancelled, yeah.
Yeah, and it got cancelled, and then he came over to us. I think that was Roundhouse Chopin.
Yes, Roundhouse. That was the Roundhouse shows
1 and 2, wasn't it? That we got because there was an issue in Germany, and so he always knew that we were here. And
I think 10. I think that's just the example. We got 2010 as an album.
Yeah.
The US didn't have that. it was Europe, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's true.
Weirdly enough, we didn't get 2010 as a tour, though, the UK.
No, just the album release.
Yeah.
I think on balance, though, we've done sort of very well out of him in that respect. And I think Europe, it's hard to know how to articulate this, because I'm certainly not knocking the Americans in the slightest. But I think there is a certain relationship the Europeans have had with his music over the years that is perhaps... I don't want to say anything that sounds exclusive, because that's not the intention at all.
No.
It's funny. Perhaps what weighs it up. This is a bit tangential, so bear with me. I remember the singer from a soft sort of heavy metal rock band called Poison, right? And Bret Michaels said, the thing about the European fans, he says, when I play in the States, he said, the American fans sing the chorus like you wouldn't believe. He said, the British fans sing the chorus and all of the verse. And I think that sort of underpins a sort of Europhile attitude towards music, and the way that we take it all and we take the oddness as well. And it's not necessarily just hits and zeitgeist. I think once we've had something, we cling on to it and keep investigating.
Yeah. I think also if you look at his main kind of like affectionate places in Europe, London, Amsterdam, Paris, those were the first 3 shows he played outside the state. Before he played Canada, he didn't play Toronto, I don't think, until it's either 1999 or Purple Rain. I think it was even Purple Rain was the first Canadian shows. I could be wrong there. I could be wrong. But as far as
send answers on a postcard, please.
No, you're right. Yeah, no, it's Purple Rain. Maple Leaf Gardens in Toronto, because that was one of my favourite ever Purple Rain solos. But anyway, I won't go there yet.
Can I addend that? My husband was front row at that show.
Okay, I'm just going to.
Not only that,
down somewhere else for 10 minutes.
When Prince did the guitar solo with the water coming out, it landed all over my husband.
Oh God! Oh man!
And welcome to play your Prince Trump card.
Oh man, I just got shot. That was a critical hit. That was amazing.
Well, there was apparently the things that I didn't know about there was scent bombs going off that he seems to remember. There were scent bombs going off. He said that it was the best smelling show. With Sheila E. Hazelwood. Actually, saying that it landed all over my husband and it was the best smelling show is probably not the best.
Thank God we can edit. Anyway.
Edit.
That's staying in.
Oh dear.
No, but so the first 3 places he plays outside of America is, Amsterdam, Paris, and London. And he's, and they were gigs where he was well received. And I think there was something, and remember, this comes after the Rolling Stones gig. No, it doesn't. Correction.
The first one in London was more was
the Lyceum
Mind. Yeah, it was you're into
Mind. Yeah, so I think so he does that and gets well received. It isn't getting that well received outside of the major cities like New York. He then goes on to have the problem with the controversy with the live show with Rolling Stones, and I think he's just. I think that stuck with him. That he could just do something new in those places. And I think those cities became synonymous with, I can do, like New York, like LA, I can do something new there. Or Chicago and Detroit. I know I can go there and whatever I do, they'll be cool with it. So I think that's why we got the shop. I think that's why...
in Camden.
In Camden. I think that's why, he played the Paradiso in Holland. I think that's why he filmed Sign of the Times there. It's just he knew that those were places, Paris and Amsterdam were where he could always go. I think they became that.
So I have a question for Paddy. Did you, with 21 Nights, was there anything that you integrated from any of the shows or what you know or what you saw into when you've done live performances?
Just the one thing I can think of, really. I mean, most of our stuff is, my focus was always the live 80s, unsurprising to everybody.
Yeah.
But,
that was the reason why I was asking.
Yeah. No, nothing compares to you, actually. He does a very, very... I'm not sure if he played it the same every show, but there was a particular recording of it from one of the nights, and the amount of dynamics he throws in with the amount of stops and stabs, it makes it so much... It really, really adds some power to something which is powerful in a different way because it's a ballad. But when you actually have a more hard-hitting dynamic compared to the sort of gentleness and the vibe of the song. So yes, we took that. I remember the very first night we played it at a little place in Bolton, and to be honest, the only thing that blew me away more than the band's dynamics was the amazing way that Dale delivered it. I remember the first time I heard that, I was like, holy shit, that sounded great. That sounded really great. It was magic. But yeah, it was that one. That's the only thing. This again, perhaps a little bit of a bone of contention. I always had a feel, and again, I say this in context as a huge Prince fan, particularly a huge live Prince fan. But I always felt that ever since the Vegas shows, there was a tiny, tiny undercurrent of sanitization that sort of bled into his shows a little bit. I think a lot of that was, again, self-imposed by all the things we said previously about when you're an artist of that caliber, you have to satisfy everybody who's there. So it's not just people like us. But it always felt a little tiny bit more sanitized. And even sort of the band were amazing, but I don't think the bands necessarily got stronger. I thought Cora and Josh were great, but I don't know. There started to be something a little bit missing after the days of sort of having Blackwell and Rhonda, etc. I mean, Renato, obviously, he's a monster god of keyboards, no denying. Some of the other stuff was good though. All the vocalists, Shelby, Marva, you had the twins down. The big show aspect, and then it did feel more like a greatest hits review in that sense. But a lot of that was, really, really good stuff. I think it was Mike Phillips and Maceo did the brunt of the gigs, which is great. Obviously, I'm a Leeds man, always will be. But yeah, that tiny little bit of sort of sanitization crept in. So, I mean, that I'm not implying in any way that he was limited in what he could do, because of course he wasn't. These are all quality musicians. But yeah, a little edge of that. It was very comfortable Prince for the family and the 10-year-olds, obviously. And again, I'm being a little bit selfish. Let's be honest. I perhaps yearn for the angry, dirty guy. If you
just going back slightly, isn't your Controversy I Feel For You kind of the same, or is that just Parade, or is
no? It is, but that originated on the Musicology tour when he did that version of Controversy I Feel For You. Or should I say I Feel For You Controversy? It's that way around. That's why I was getting confused.
And you do Chelsea
I Feel For You Controversy, and then Controversy we do the Purple Rain, the Parade to a segue into Mutiny or Love Is Iron.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I'm glad Leah knows your set list that well.
Well, if Leah doesn't, nobody does.
With Josh and Cora Dunham, I'll say this: they might not have been the most dynamic in terms of the main show, but where they really came into their own was the after shows. The
That's good to hear.
After shows, because I'd been listening to the Vegas bootlegs and was like, this is cool. Listening to like the 3121 Jazz Cafe things kind. Oh, this is really interesting. I mean, and not really kind of, because on bootlegs a lot of the time there was no list of who was playing. I was just like, oh, maybe there was a guest on that time. And so when that band went into Stratus in the after shows, that lifted the roof. When they did Stratus, the three, and that particular band arrangement, Renato Neto was obviously amazing, Morris Hayes was amazing, but it was really well underpinned by Josh and Cora, and I think that's what they came into their own, because they were more trying to get a player like our Cora, who's quite a light player in terms of Prince's history, to replicate something like a Lindrum is kind of not fair in one sense, because I think the pair of them are very nimble and light, punchy kind of players, as opposed to something like Michael Bland or John Blackwell, which are real heavy hitters, and they've got real punch to them. But the after shows were musically quite nimble, and that's where I think they came into their own, just as an audience member. I mean, you could listen to the bootlegs and maybe disagree, but in the room, it was definitely when they went into their jazz tinge stuff, and when they could explore the songs, like the way that they did Around the World in a Day and A Beautiful Strange. I mean, I was usually like, I remember that time particularly because usually, like when you get emotional, you get teary-eyed and stuff. I remember by the time we got through Around the World in a Day, kind of like an instrumental of Paisley Park and into Beautiful Strange, I remember being so emotionally overwhelmed that I couldn't even cry. It was something else. Somebody, it was again, somebody was like, "Are you okay?" And I was just like, I can't even answer. And on the last after show, when they did Villanova, like Jimi Hendrix's Villanova Junction, that was always like a favorite of one of those. I loved listening to that on one of the kind of Paris bootlegs from like '93, I think it was. And I was just like, I'd love to hear Prince play Villanova Junction. And I never thought, because it was just such a moment. But then they went into it in the after show, and I was done. It was one of those musical moments where I was just like, I don't even think like crying, like one of those kind of, it's so beautiful, so beautiful. This was like, astral traveling. I was, I left my body, I left part of myself in that room. Do you know what I mean? It was so good. This is why I went when those moments that are just like, this is worth every aching for, this is worth every tired, oh my God, I can't believe I have to do this again. Like my ankles, my knees, everything aches, but like because it was exhausting. It was exhausting to try and keep up with, that band in that sense, because I'm not a sit down and watch. I'm a dance. I'm a dance and scream and shout around, even as an audience member. But that's where they came into their own and created musical moments that were just stunning. And I think the main shows really were fair because they were trying. And this is, I think, a crux of all bands. Say after the New Power generation, say 95 era, every band after that 95 band was dispersed was kind of cursed with having to recreate the sound of another band. And you're kind of judging them, like, oh, they do their own stuff well, but they're not as good as the Revolution. But it's kind of like, well, the Revolution never had to do Billy Jack Bitch as well. So it's kind of not like a fair playing ground in that sense. And I think that when you're dealing with a main hit show, they'll always sort of fall short in some respects. But it was the after shows, I think, is where you kind of find out where the band is at and why he's got those people around him.
I think that you can get your personality out of the type of vibe in an after show, whereas you're a little bit more doing a job at a gig. No, I see what you're saying, and I say I want to caveat it with it was still a fantastic band. I'm not saying anything other than that. But obviously, we've got a lot to compare against. And a lot to go back over, I suppose.
Could be one of the next podcast discussions, band members or favourite band lineups.
Yeah. I think in addendum to that, I think that the two post-96 bands that fared really well in terms of reputation were the One Night Alone band and Third Eye Girl, because he wasn't in a hits mode.
Yeah.
So, because he wasn't in a hits mode, people talk about the One Night Alone band, but they don't really include musicology in that realm of great shows. And therein lies the problem of if Prince had never gone through the One Night Alone phase, doing shows without hits and doing Rainbow Children live, and just got those people in to do musicology, I don't think their reputations as Prince's band would be as strong, because we wouldn't have got to see their personality in the same way that we did with the One Night Alone shows. Fair argument?
Yeah, they were very, very distinct. A very, very distinct period was that, which was very welcome. I have to say, I mean, if I wanted a casual listen, I love Rainbow Children, but it isn't the obvious thing I'd go to first necessarily. But I have to say, my favourite live experience with Prince, probably other than the first time I ever saw him, was One Night Alone in Manchester. There's no getting away from it, because it was just the whole vibe. It was smaller, it was personal, and again, juxtaposed to the point of everything we're just saying, he went off and everybody stamp, and they wouldn't stop stamping. And he did come out having said at the beginning, I'm not going to play sort of Red Corvette and Purple Rain tonight, I'm doing this. And he played Purple Rain anyway. And it was go on. It's lovely. But that period was extremely special. I think it does play to what you're saying about those musicians, and again, probably slightly unpopular of me. I thought Third Eye Girl was sort of another step down for me. I liked what they did. I'm a guitarist. I love and again, the caveat being,
Donna's amazing.
They were ace, but I don't know.
Did you see any of Third Eye Girl shows?
Yeah, saw 2.
Okay. Which ones were they? The Manchester one?
The Manchester one. And the 2 in Manchester, or was one in Birmingham? I did 2 nights in Birmingham, actually.
Was this the second time around when they were doing more hits shows?
It was more hits shows, yeah.
Right.
It was probably slightly better at that point, because they'd brought keyboard players in as well to sort of beef it up a bit for that time.
Whereas I preferred the first time around, and these two probably deserve a lot of time to talk.
No, it's fine.
I think I think they're messaging each other saying, "Oh my God, listen to these two go on like saddle."
No, that's fine. I was we were talking about the hits and everything, and I just remember I know Leah's first gig was Prince. My first gig was Prince, and it was the Gold Experience, or the Gold Tour, the Ultimate Tour, in '95. And I remember casual fans going and being disappointed because they didn't know any of the songs, because it was promoting the Gold Experience. And I remember it coming up on screen and going, release date never. And I remember a lot of casual fans being disappointed.
I'm thoroughly disgusted with myself to say I was to some degree one of those people. And now I would jump off a cliff to go back and go.
Exactly the same.
It was second row in the middle at Sheffield Arena on the Gold Show, and I would give anything to go back and do that again.
Yeah, because I remember it was I was aware of the songs because I'd seen the specials, the VH1 specials and stuff like that, and I knew a majority of the songs. But I remember there were so many casual fans going, and they didn't know the songs. So, and then in contrast, 21 Nights, it was the hits, and there was a lot of casual fans there. And with 21 Nights, I think it became a bit of a thing of, oh, we're going to see Prince. Have you never seen Prince live? You have to see Prince live. And it became more of a water cooler kind of conversation of, it was an event going on in London that a majority of people were going to, and it became more of a popularity thing within London of like, there's an opportunity to go see Prince. You have to go see Prince live. So that was the two comparisons that I had of one tour and then another tour of casual fans and non-casual, hardcore fans, and each people getting something that they wanted or didn't get what they wanted, if that makes sense.
I can't tell you how many conversations I've been in, like with just random people when somebody says, "Oh, this," like when like first meeting people say, "Oh, what kind of music are you into?" I was like, "Oh, yeah, like Prince, Madonna, Michael Jackson," and almost immediately, a lot of the time in London, they'll just say, "I saw Prince once when he was doing those 21 nights of thingy. Did you go and see that? Like, because it was amazing. Like, did you get in? Did you go and see that?" I'm like, yeah.
You open your jacket and all the tickets dangle out of the jacket.
It's just like
that reminds me of after not long after he'd passed, somebody who I thought knew me quite well came up to me and said, "Do you know, I watched the program about Prince. Do you know, he produced everything, he played all his own, he did blah, blah, blah." And I think I just looked at him and went, "Go away." Go away.
Yeah.
I appreciate your attempt, but my grief is quite deep right now.
But the other thing is, he definitely put his stamp on that actual venue itself, because when he passed, they lit it up all purple, and they put the symbol on all the screens. And then a couple of days after he passed, there was an event there at, I think it was the Hollywood Bowl, and there was a big, Prince. It wasn't really a party, but it was a gathering of Prince fans, and it was an incredible night, and the whole place was lit purple. And I think they've even got a plaque there or something now near the thing. And then obviously they had the exhibition there, so he definitely put his stamp on that venue. And he was
one of the launch artists for that venue, because I think it was only Scissor Sisters and Bon Jovi that were before him. That I can remember. There was only a couple of different acts that had been before him, to the point that actually people who had been in the upper tier, like in the top upper tier, and sorry, Leah, this is where you're going to be real angry at me, because if you were in the upper tier and you said you had vertigo, they would give you a ticket to downstairs. If you were in the top 10 rows. Because
the most disappointing.
That's like hearing you've been left out of a will or something. That is brutal, Chopin.
I'm sorry, but this is what they were doing with the venue. They really didn't know, and there was...
Wait, so they didn't see a 10-year-old and go, "Do you know what? She probably shouldn't be all the way up there."
Yeah. Health and safety in brackets.
There were 3 nights where I could only get tickets in the top tier, and I only sat in the top tier once, because and that was because I was with a friend, and it was when I knew someone that worked there, and I was just like, "Oh, it's really steep up there," and she was like, "Yeah, if you go around there, they'll give you." It's a problem with the venue, because when they opened, they started advertising, "If you have vertigo, don't sit in these seats." But at the time, they hadn't advertised that, so they were actually leaving space downstairs for people to go down. And
so when we go to the O2, it'll be like, "Oh yeah, I've got vertigo."
So you probably could have got tickets. Yeah. Moved downstairs.
I did end up down there briefly. My dad's like one of those cheeky people who, if he's got a chance, he'll take it. So we did end up down there for the encore.
Okay.
A 10-year-old, very overwhelmed. I don't remember kind of how we got down there or how close we got, but I do remember distinctly my dad arguing with the security guard, because my dad took the opinion of, the longer I argue with this security guard, the longer Leah's at the front. So he was arguing for ages, and I just distinctly remember, like, jaw on the floor, Prince was doing Girls and Boys, I'm sure it was, and we were kind of by the point of the symbol, and my dad was arguing, and the only bit of the conversation I picked up was my dad going, "What's your name? I used to do your job. What's your name?" And he was like, "Tom." And my dad was like, "What's your second name?" And he was like, "Tom." And he goes, "Oh, your name's Tom Tom, is it?" That's all I remember of this argument.
Somewhere in the audience, someone went, "That sounds like a great name for a sat nav."
Oh my God, your dad's a Karen. Let me talk to the manager.
It was Karen by choice, bless him, because he decided that the longer he stayed and argued, the longer I was down there.
The fact of the matter is like that security guard probably knew that you could get moved downstairs. So
yeah, that was when I got hit on the head with a glow stick, actually, because people were throwing them on the stage, weren't they? But to be honest, I'm happy about it, because we ended up going in late. I missed coming halfway through controversy, as I said, because my dad was flirting with someone outside. Long story. A lovely bosom with a symbol sitting in it, and then jumped at the chance. So we came in quite late, and they'd ran out of the glow sticks, so I only had a CD, and me, 10 years old, looking at all these glow sticks going, "I want a glow stick." But I didn't get one, so I spent the whole show without one. And then while I was down closer, while my dad was arguing, 2 glow sticks landed next to me. One hit my head, bounced off me, and I picked it up. So I do have 2 that I found on the floors around me, thankfully. But I was at the front for a short time, so that makes up for it slightly.
And I'm glad that you got downstairs, especially that Girls and Boys bit at the end. That was great. Me and Andy were like in the middle bit, and then we kind of walked. Like when everybody thought that the show was over with, obviously after 21 nights, I was like, "Oh well, this is routine for me. Like everybody's leaving their seats. I'm like just going zoom straight in there, and just stood by the sampler thing because I knew usually he came back for a sampler's section, but this night he was doing not only the sampler section but songs as well. He was like really extending it out, like he was savoring every moment himself. And yeah, for that Girls and Boys thing, I was on the floor, like I got down the floor. So I think you've done what we've done, is just like use everybody going away, like going to catch the last tube to kind of.
Yeah, I think that was the basis of my dad's argument originally, was the show's over. And he was like, "Yeah, it is." And he was like, "So we can be where we want, the show's over," knowing that my dad was like, "He's coming back on." So that was the original argument.
I like the plan.
It was the glow stick thing was interesting as well, because as I remember it was a setup by Prince.org that there was going to be this is one of those arguments for he reads the fan boards, because there was a group of fans like, we're going to wait up. We've got like a group of fans who are going to wait outside and said, we got like 50 glow sticks or something. Come get your glow stick and show that you're a Prince.org member. And like the glow stick, there's like, if you want, you can give us like £1 or something for the glow stick. Anyway, so they did that, but I just was meeting someone else. I was going to do it, but when I walked in, I was just like, wait a minute, they're all handing out glow sticks to this show. And I was like, he's read the message boards for sure, because that's no coincidence, because there was purple glow sticks, and that's exactly what the guys from, I can't remember if it was Housequake or Prince.org, I think it was Prince.org, that was setting it up to like hand them out.
What a lovely thought to think that you'd read that and thought, right then. I mean, that's lovely.
Yeah, he was definitely reading the message boards, definitely, for sure.
It's just like, oh, that's a great idea. It's gonna, especially as he's televising it, so that's going to look great on camera. Like,
yeah.
So, got to ask you, Chopin, as the official PPUK 21 Nights archivist, specialist, professor, master's graduate type.
Purple guru.
Obsessive nerdy geek, yeah.
Yeah. So, what was, if there was one moment that particularly sticks with you, and I know you've spoken about a couple of emotional moments, or sort of where you went off to a different place and all these things, what was the moment in all those hours of awesome, awesome Prince music?
I would say, weirdly enough, the moment wasn't actually at the show. It's that after every after show, so you go to the show, we'd go to Nando's, and I'd always just have we'd go to Nando's that's inside. We'd hang out at Nando's.
Keep saying that name, we'll get sponsorship. That will help.
Yeah, so you go to the main, so you hang out in one of the bars first. We'd all gather in one of the bars. We go to the main show, then all of the London meetup crew would go to Nando's. I would just have a frozen yogurt because all I needed was moisture and sugar. Like, that's literally all I needed at that point because I knew what was to come. We'd go to the after show, wait an hour, see if he turned up. If he didn't, but we'd wait until the lights turned on, and they'd always hold the last boat. Now, after every single night, there would always be a group of about 5. Some nights it was 5, midweek it was about 5 or 6. Weekends it was 20 to 30 of us that we all knew on the back of the Thames Clipper, speeding through the Thames at about 3 in the morning, 4 in the morning, singing. And then there'd be kind of a moment where we would just take in what we'd seen. So, actually at the show, it was just a constant assault. It was a constant, get to the, what's the next moment? That was amazing. Oh, my God, I was blown away. He's still playing. What's the next song? Oh, my God, he's doing those lyrics. And I wonder what he'll do next. Do you reckon he'll do this? And it wasn't until you were sat down on the back of that boat, speeding through London, like the wind in your hair type thing, going, this is like one of those in novels where they go, that halcyon summer. Do you know what I mean? And it was like one of those moments where you were there and you were aware you were creating that summer for your own memories. And it was like you were with friends. You'd seen something amazing and even though everybody saw the main shows, you were just at these private shows that were going to be part of history, and you were kind of at that point aware that he wasn't going to, although you thought he was going to be around forever, you're kind of aware that there will be a time where he's either not around or not doing stuff. You knew you were creating that kind of that movie for your memories type thing. You were creating that that piece of film for the, when your life flashes before your eyes. One of those things is going to be on the back of the Thames Clipper after a Prince show, going, we just saw something amazing, and you were aware of it, and you were the people around you were aware of it. And I think that was what was really special, because that was something that was happening in your 30s, not your 20s. That was happening in my teens.
It's a nice sort of parallel with when you were a bit older and you look back at a coming-of-age summer that was specifically that time in your life, the planets aligned, the situation aligned. 21 nights of Prince in London, you live in London, you have a close group of friends. That's beautiful, man. Absolutely beautiful.
I had those amazing summers when I was a teenager, but I wasn't aware I was having them. I was too caught up in personal dramas, what have you. But now I look back on them as those, those amazing times. But and I've had summers since, and I will continue to have them. But I know it doesn't seem so at the moment with the current lockdown and virus situation. But we'll have those summers again. We'll be on a dance floor with each other again in the coming months, years, whatever. We'll hope so.
We will. I might even come down to London at some point. And
oh my God!
I really do need to.
Having seen that you've got a gold guitar, and I work for the railway, I might get a cheap ticket up to Leeds.
Hey, mate, you're welcome anytime.
Fantastic. Well, so it was just one of those summers where it was just one of those moments where the fog of just adrenaline and loved up just mixed with, I love these people around me. I've had the most amazing night, and I know this is going to be special. It's a privilege to be aware of you're creating those memories at the time. And I think that was the first time I could really say I was aware I was making those memories. So that to me was the most special 21 Nights thing.
I wish I'd have kind of known that. I knew that this was a huge pinnacle in my life. There was no avoiding that. It was my first time in London, first concert. Like, I knew this was a really big deal. But I wish I would have known that it was literally the basis for the rest of my existence. It kind of was. Yeah. Like, at that point in time, I was in the room with so many people that I would now, age 23, still be meeting up with, and I didn't know that. So
yeah.
Isn't that a lovely thought? The thought that you're in, I mean, again, it's the same for me, Leah, because I didn't know Chopin then, I didn't know Lee then, and a bunch of other people who, again, I wish I was a bit geographically closer to, but it is what it is. And the fact that, yeah, you were all in the same room having that joined experience, and the little sort of tendrils of life loop you in. It's marvellous. Yeah.
It's so crazy just to have been age 10 and look down and go, that tiny dot all the way down there, that's Chopin. And when you're 23 years old, you're going to be doing some weird podcasts. Talking about very moment.
Or feeling really sorry for that 10-year-old girl that you saw being hit by a glow stick, going, yeah, in a couple of years' time I'll be doing it.
Do you know the strangest thing? I'm sure either somebody told me or somebody wrote on the board, like in outrage, said, well, I was sat in there when they were thrown down there and it hit this little girl. So I'm pretty sure I heard about
wow.
somebody else. Because when you said it, I was just like, yeah.
6 degrees of the Prince community.
Although, to be quite honest, also when you said, "Oh, a big-chested woman with a symbol in her cleavage," I was just like, "Well, I mean, that could."
Yeah, we probably know her.
It could have been Lynn. I'd have never have known.
The list is endless. It could have been me. I know I'd had a couple of burgers at the time, you know.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, is that you?
And all I keep on thinking is I'm going to have to press on that E on that bloody submission. Yeah, exactly. Or when you submit it to YouTube, and he's like, "Is this suitable for children?"
Okay, I'll beep up. Do you want me to beep up the swearing?
No, it'll be fine.
That's fine. I'll make a Jehovah's Witness kind of version of the show.
Always a pleasure. I'm hoping people are enjoying these podcasts. We're getting great feedback. Thank you for listening. And again, it's just fans chatting for fans and going over things like 21 Nights and all these emotional times. And I think it's helping, especially during these times as well. So I hope you're enjoying it. And it's been a pleasure talking to Leah and Paddy and Chopin and Andy. And I think it's been a good success and a great chat as always.
Cool, yeah, thoroughly enjoyed it. Always do. Talking about Prince is a great thing. I love that we tangentialise a little bit now and again, but ultimately, a lot of the time, I think that shows the community that his music brought together, and the fact that we're all sort of linked in an insubstantial way and a substantial way, and I think that's a brilliant thing. And I love doing these podcasts for that reason. It's fantastic.
Yeah, it's been great. It is so much fun to talk about this one in particular, something that I've been super passionate about just because it brings about so many good memories for me. And I'm definitely going to have to repost some of the pictures and videos I have from that day.
Go with the podcast, yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to have to send some over because, yeah, they're embarrassing, some of them, but they're a lot of fun and it's nice to reflect on it. So yeah, I really enjoyed it. Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys for letting me waffle on, because I know that I had a lot to say about this time, because it was just an amazing summer. Not just because of Prince, because again, like with all the people I was with, all the Prince fans I was with, it was more than just, for me at that time, it was more than just concerts. It was connecting with a group of people that to this day, I don't get to see much right now, but it's it's a group of people that I look forward to seeing on a regular basis again. So it's a fantastic time, and check out the bootlegs, even if you missed it.
Absolutely.
Send them to me, Chopin.
Or better still, Prince hinted that he was going to release all of them. So why bootleg it when I'm going to release them? And I think the estate should do a 21 Nights box set.
Ooh.
Ooh.